Hello wondrous YouTube. Okay, this is my it's not a top 10 because to be honest there are hundreds of these shows around, but it is 10 kids TV shows that you've probably forgotten existed. This is mainly going to be for 90s kids, but who knows. I still watch cartoons today. I'm obsessed with SpongeBob. I don't think that's a bad thing. But yeah, so we're going to start this one off with number 10. These are in no particular order, just how I decided to write them out. There's no favourites here. Number 10 is Animaniacs. Yes, so we're starting off with Animaniacs. Now, this wasn't even one of my favourite kids' TV shows when I was a kid, but I think it's kind of a staple piece of kids' TV shows. I mean, I did like it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that it was essentially kind of a sketch show for kids. I mean, all the little skits they did were quite short. There was a lot of different characters. There was too many characters to even name. Of course, you can't think of Animaniacs without thinking of Hello Nurse. And of course, it centres around Yakko, Wakko, and Dot, who they don't really have a specific, I don't think they're a specific species, but they are supposedly meant to be more dog, because originally they were ducks. They were drawn as ducks, and then during pre-production they changed it. They'd drawn all the stills and everything out as them being ducks, but they changed them to a more dog-like species, apparently. So yeah, even though they look like aliens, they're supposed to be dogs, just so you know. Yeah, this was obviously a Warner Brothers, baby. I mean, it was plastered everywhere. I mean, the fact that in the opening they burst out the Warner Brothers tower should tell you that. And apparently it ran from 1993 to 95, I think. It was on Fox Kids first, which is quite strange because a lot of them usually go to Fox Kids, but this one started off on Fox Kids. And it was kind of just Yakko, Wakko, and Dot just sort of held the show together. It was mainly a sort of sketch show, and they were kind of like just the wraparound characters to sort of open and close them, I guess, if you know what I mean. And there was a load of different stuff. It was just surreal. It was just everything in it was wacky, and it was meant to be like that. That was the point. I mean, it was just really random, sort of bordering on Looney Tunes. It sort of bordered on like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but in cartoon style, But it was really entertaining, and not just for little kids, for older kids too. I'm just going to look at my notes because I made a bunch of notes. Warner Brothers took it over in 95. Not Warner Bros, sorry, the WB took it over in 95 and started re-airing it in till 1998. They did make a sort of spin-off movie called Wakko's Wish. I've never heard of that. I only looked it up, but apparently they did make it. And the point of the characters was that they were supposed to be made in the 1930s, and then they've been locked up in the Warner Brothers tower all that time, and they escape in the 1990s. So essentially they're basically escaped lunatics. And this is a kids show, but it's okay. They're allowed to be escaped lunatics because they're cartoons and they're in the land of cartoons. That's acceptable apparently. But I mean, there was loads and loads and loads of characters. Obviously, the nurse. There was the Good Feathers. There was the little baby who never called her mum. She always called her lady. She's like, okay, lady, bye bye. I loved her. She was the best. Steven Spielberg was the executive producer on this for the whole of its run. So he must have really loved it to have been there from the start to the finish, because it's several years. So that's quite an achievement. I think that's pretty much all I can say about it, because it is just basically a sketch show. I mean, they did parody quite a lot of popular culture. They parodied a lot of Disney movies, like Lion King, Pocahontas, Bambi, all that sort of stuff. And just kind of, I guess, whatever was happening in the world at that time, they tried to sort of parody. As well as like cartoon cliches, they always pointed out a cliche in the land of cartoons, which was quite funny. And they were always quite like, I think it was Wakko, sounded like one of the Beatles. He always sounded like he was stoned as well. And then Yakko was meant to be kind of the adult one, and then Dot was just like the little cutesy pie, and she was insane. She was totally insane. I loved her. But yeah, I think that's it for Animaniacs. I suggest you go watch it because it's a good show. Okay, number 9. We have I don't know if this is actually going to Cow and Chicken. Okay, that was even like surreal and weird for me. But in case you didn't notice, we're doing Cow and Chicken right now. Cow and Chicken was one of those kind of wacky shows. I don't have... there were a lot of shows, and I wanted to put like Angry Beavers on this list, but it didn't end up on this list. There are some shows like Ren and Stimpy, obviously, and Rocko's Modern Life also. But I can't really watch Rocko's Modern Life. It was too gross and just too surreal. It doesn't really have a plot. Neither does Ren and Stimpy. That's just a mindfuck. And yeah, Angry Beavers was probably... It was between Cow and Chicken and Angry Beavers, but I think people have forgotten Cow and Chicken a bit more than Angry Beavers. So Cow and Chicken's made it onto the list. Cow and Chicken was running on Cartoon Network from 1997 to 1999. The one thing when I was researching a lot of these TV shows is that I realised that they only ran for a couple of years, and to be honest, they've really stayed with me. And I think they've stayed with a lot of other people at points. It just seems really surreal that they only had a couple of years as an original run. I mean, a lot of them are getting reruns in the last sort of 2 years, but I would have thought they'd have been around for at least a few more. Yeah, I mean, Cow and Chicken was random. There was no real plot. It was just watching the characters. And obviously, Chicken was a boy, and he was, you know, a sarcastic, egomaniac, you know, just sort of 10-year-old boy, you know, that kind of mentality. And Cow obviously was his younger sister, which is just hilarious when you see them together, in the fact that she's a girl. And she's just like a really naive little kid. It's basically like watching a human boy and a human girl, brother and sister, just get up to mischief. I mean, me and my brother used to do that kind of stuff, you know. I'd be the naive one thinking, oh wow, and he'd be like, yeah, go on, you can do it, go on, do it. And then I'd end up doing something, and I'd end up getting hurt because obviously I'm too small or whatnot. And it's just literally like watching a brother and sister do random stuff. But they have the red guy who I guess they wanted to be Satan at one point because of the way he looks, a bit like a devil. And he basically it's his job in the show to try and harm Cow and Chicken and hurt them or get them in situations where they're in danger. And they kind of get, just, you know, you watch them get themselves out of it and do silly things. I do remember there being I think it's pork butts. I do remember there being like a thing where they'd have dinner and their favourite food was like pork butts or something, and they'd just pour a lever and they'd just be like these massive pig's asses just flying towards them. Another random thing of the show is that you never saw their parents. They were literally halves. You only saw their legs. And I'm pretty sure I remember there being an episode where the camera, obviously, you know, I know it's drawn, but the camera would pan up and they had no top half at all. It was just their legs. But they were both human. And they had a cow and a chicken. So maybe they were inbred. I don't know. Maybe that was like one of those subliminal messages. Like, if you're inbred, you're going to end up with a cow and a fucking chicken. Oh, they also had a cousin called Boneless Chicken. I do remember this, and he literally just had no skeleton. He was just a floppy chicken. He'd just be on the floor all the time. Just, oh, that's so random. Who the fuck thinks this stuff up? I'm not going to complain, because I did find it entertaining as a child. But you must, I mean, the people that make these are like usually men, executives, okay? There are executives in these companies. It's a company. It's a conglomerate, basically. There must be meetings in real boardrooms with these people wearing suits and ties, and they sit there and they must come up with this shit. I'd love to sit in on one of those meetings, pitching an idea like this. I don't think I've written anything else down because, like I said again, it is mainly... There's no real running plot through the episodes. It's like any random shit they can throw at you, and it's funny as hell. And it's more, you kind of just remember little snippets, you know, like the pork butts. Although I will say, Cow had 3 little dolly teddy bear type things, and their names are just hilarious. They were called Manure the bear, Piles the beaver, and what was the other one? Crabs the warthog. Once again, who the fuck thought this up? I'm sure that this is grown men doing this, so I don't really know what to think about that. Anyway, that's the end of Cow and Chicken. Hope you enjoyed the theme tune. Now, number 8 we're on. Oh, God's sake, I love number... And if you don't know this next one, then you're a weirdo. Okay, let's hope this works.
What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of? Such
What's the story? Wishbone. Okay, I'm gonna stop it. Okay, that's Wishbone. Wishbone! Oh my god, he's so cute! Oh, I love Wishbone. He's a little Jack Russell Terrier. And, just, aww. Wishbone! I love Wishbone. Okay, I'm going to stop drawing over the dog now. But he's so cute. Okay, Wishbone was basically an educational TV programme. And I didn't realise it was educational until I was a lot older. But it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Wishbone was about it was a live action. So it was a real dog. It wasn't a cartoon. It was basically about a little Jack Russell Terrier who he kind of every episode he told a story, but a real story, like from an actual classic book, like Tale of Two Cities, Oliver Twist, Romeo and Juliet, etc., etc. Stories throughout time. Sorry, god damn, that's bright. I hate this webcam. It's really winding me up now. I'm like disappearing. Sorry, I'm just going to sort this. Oh, that's a little bit better. I'm probably going to go really grey now, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, yeah, Wishbone, he basically lived with his owner, Joe Talbot, and obviously the fictional characters, and Joe's two best friends, David and Sam, and his parents, and they lived in like a suburb. It was like, you know, the American dream kind of place, suburb. And no one could hear him speak, but you heard him speak, like his thoughts. He was voiced by Larry Brantley, and the dog's real name was Soccer. Soccer the dog. So yeah, and he would basically, at the beginning of the episode, there would be a situation. It could be anything. It could be a school dance. It could be, I think there was one where there was an allergic reaction to something, or someone in peril. And he would then relate the story, a classic tale that sort of mimicked the wraparound story. And then the rest of the episode, it would be him. He would always be dressed up in something, like if he was playing Henry VIII or something, he'd be dressed as Henry VIII. And all the people, the characters in this story, would treat him as a human, and they could hear him speak. And then he would basically act out the story with the other characters, and then it would go back at the end to real, like, reality, and he'd be with Joe and all that. And oh, it was just so good. I mean, if you ever see a Jack Russell Terrier be Oliver Twist and go, "Please sir, I want some more." Oh, it's so adorable. So I look right back on. So adorable. It was on Channel 5 in the UK. I'm not sure about the American or Canadian broadcasting. Sorry, I forgot to find that out. But yeah, they reran it a lot. I don't think I actually wrote anything else down. It ran from 1995 to 1998, so we're in the mid-90s. So that sounds about right. I mean, there was a lot of episodes, but obviously there's only so many classic tales out there that they can actually sort of, you know, do, and sort of do it in a way that kids understand it, because obviously a lot of this stuff is Shakespeare and things like that. So they had to kind of translate it, you know. But getting a dog, I do remember one. I can't remember who it is. Is it Odysseus? It's not Oedipus. I'm going to say Odysseus. And watching them, like, because obviously it was a fake dog's paw at the time of this scene, but he had to, like, shoot an arrow through the middle of the battle axes, and I just remember them having the dog going like that. So the dog's like, it's a fake dog, I'm putting the arrow back. It was so cute. But I loved Wishbone. It's just a really good. It's a really good show, and I'm pretty sure they CGI'd him smiling at the end as well, because obviously he couldn't do that. But it was so adorable. Okay, that was number 8. Number 7. I've got to make sure, hopefully, all these little intros work.
My name is Angela. Hey, hello. Welcome to my Marion show. I'll introduce my friends to you. Oh no, it's Minnie Pooh.
I'm such a geek for remembering that.
Dooby-dooby-doo-wah-wah. My name is Angela, and you are not in it words of my love jerk-face heart. And now to today's story, starring me, and not starring Nanette Memoir.
Okay, that's it. It's ended. Yes, Angela Anaconda. Angela Anaconda. I don't know how many people know this, but I'm pretty sure you would have at least heard of it. Like, you'll remember the name. Angela Anaconda was basically a cutout animation. All the characters were black and white. It was I can't really describe it in a way, because I've not really seen much else in that particular animation. But, you know, it was kind of like you know, it was almost like photographic cutout, but obviously those faces couldn't have been real, trust me. It ran from 1999 to 2002. Once again, I can't believe it only ran for a couple of years. I watched this a hell of a lot when I was younger. I really did. I was always putting it on. I think they had like a marathon at one point, and I sat and watched the whole fucking thing. It's basically about Angela Anaconda, obviously, and her friends. It's very surreal. They've all got strange names, strange traits. The basic plot of the series is that it follows her and her friends doing everyday stuff. Now, she daydreams a lot, so we get to see a lot of fantasy-like animation, you know, of things she wishes she could do to Nanette Manoir, like in revenge. Because Nanette Manoir is the main protagonist, and she has her two little clone sidekicks, January and Carlene, who basically their only role in the show is to agree with her. Nanette Manoir is a very spoiled little girl who thinks that she's French because her name is French. She's actually just some random American chick. Her parents are very, very rich. She's a complete snob, and she hates Angela and her friends because they're not rich or, you know, pretty and popular and whatnot. She is the self-professed most beautiful girl in the class, and she's constantly buying off her teacher with presents and whatnot. And she just literally lives to make Angela's life a living hell, and that's all she does in the whole thing. But it's funny because she usually does get her comeuppance at some point. There's Angela Anaconda, who's only 8. Her best friend's Gina Lash, who I think looks like a cartoon version of Sarah Millican. This is not insulting, they're just really similar. And she's just a sort of chubby girl with glasses, you know. She's very, very smart though, she's very, very intelligent. She gets picked on a lot by Nanette Manoir. There's Johnny Abbotti, who is like the cartoon version of Joey Tribbiani. He's faux Italian, he loves pizza. I think his family owns a pizzeria, and he's just got one of those Italian quiffs, you know, with like the white vest on and stuff like that, kind of like the 60s. A bit Sleepers, a bit Goodfellas. Yeah, and he's obviously one of her close friends as well. He's a little bit more cool because he's kind of got that suave Italian thing going on, so they don't tend to pick on him as much. And the other, her other best friend is Gordy Reinhardt, who is the epitome of what they would class a geek. He's got asthma, he's got glasses, he's skinny. He would rather press flowers than do sports, but his dad is an ex-army buff, so he's got this really, like, I think he's the coach as well. His dad's the coach, you know, in the school. So yeah, it's just kind of like the misfits together, and they just get into silly little, you know, like as kids do, you know, let's start a lemonade stand. Oh, let's do a fundraising car wash, and of course Nanette Manoir can't have any of this, so she has to ruin it all. That's pretty much the plot of Angela Anaconda. I don't think I've written anything else down that I could put in there that's relevant. Oh, these weren't released on DVD anywhere except for the UK. Go us. They were released only the first 20 episodes, so I think they made, I can't remember how many episodes they actually made, but they did make, there was like 3 series, so maybe like 50 or 60 episodes. But yeah, it's only in the UK, guys. Sorry. That was number 7. Yeah, it was, yeah. Okay. Number 6. That was quick. Yeah, The Amanda Show. Now, I'm a huge fan of Amanda Bynes. I've always loved her. I've loved her because I started watching this show, and obviously she was like, I think she was like 13 at this point. I think she's the same age as me. So, yeah. But yeah, I started watching this show randomly, and I love it because, like, sort of like Animates, it's another sketch show. I mean, it's kind of like, it's basically like All That. I mean, we don't really know All That in the UK, but I know Americans know All That really well. It's kind of like All That, except instead of having a whole cast, it literally was like Amanda Bynes at the helm. So she was the wraparound, she was the main character in all these sketches, and then there were recurring characters around her. She had, she basically had some recurring sketches and then a bunch of random ones. She had recurring characters. Of course, I think the most famous one, apart from Amanda Bynes herself, was Penelope Taint. Now, in The Amanda Show is very famous. It's a fictional reality where she is, you know, the star of her own show and everyone knows who she is. Penelope Taint is played by Amanda Bynes, and she's got black hair and glasses and looks a bit secretarial. She's obsessed with Amanda, and she's constantly trying to break onto the set of the show to get to her, and she does it in silly ways. And she's always like, whenever she comes up against a security guard, she's like, I must see Amanda. Amanda, please. And every time she says Amanda, please, it cracks me up because they always put it at the end of the show. So yeah, she's like her obsessed fan without looking like an obsessed fan. There was Blockbuster, but I think the way they said it was Blockbuster. It was basically a parody of Blockbusters, where someone would constantly go in, they would constantly be taking back a video and going, I've just watched this, like I've just rented Titanic or, you know, Ghostbusters. There's always be some really famous movie, and what they've done is, because it's run by these guys, what they've done is they've taped over the original movie and made their own one. Christ almighty, sorry, my face has completely disappeared. Yeah, so they've basically taped over. I'm just going to shut my curtain. Oh god. Yeah, there we go, yay. So what they did was they taped over the videos with their own version, so it's literally just them trying to act and doing it terribly. And that was Blockbuster. There was Moody's Point, which was obviously like a rip-off of Dawson's Creek, where she played Moody, and she was just being a moody cow the whole time and constantly had teen angst and whatnot. What else was there? Oh, there was Judge Trudy. Judge Trudy was brilliant. I know I keep fucking about with the lighting, sorry, but I can't even see my face. Yeah, Judge Trudy was basically parody of Judge Judy, and it didn't matter what the kids had done or how innocent they were, she always blamed them. She's like, next, guilty, guilty. That was quite funny. There were, what else was there? Oh, I think the only other thing I can really mention, apart from those kind of random parodies they did, was that they did their own commercials. Like they would make up their own food brands or their own toy brands. I know I keep messing around with the lighting. There was a Spitballer 5000, of course, and I think there was something called Meatloaf Crunch or Meat Crunch or something like that. Cereal. I'm gonna stop messing around with the lighting. I'm just gonna do this. Yeah, so it was basically a fictional universe where she had this amazing show and everyone loved her, and she just had really random sketches. There was also the girls' room, where it was her and like 3 of her friends, and they just did like their own camera, like sort of gossip show. It was like a cable show, and they did it from the girls' toilets in their school. And there was obviously the exchange student from Tennessee, and there was the really dopey girl who just used to just go, I like eggs. I don't know why. I don't know why she liked eggs so much, but she loved them. Okay, that's pretty much it for the Amanda show. And just look at the disappearing of my nose. It's gross. I'm just going to go turn on my big light, actually. And I've noticed that I keep fucking around in this video, and you're probably getting quite bored about it, but we're going to stop messing around. On to where are we at? Number 5. Okay, number 5. Now, I actually have a box to go with this one. The trapdoor! I'm going to talk over the intro, because I don't think I should make you wait anymore. Now, the trapdoor. Oh, I have the collection, look! The complete collection!
For there is always something down there, in the dark, waiting to come out.
Fool if you dare! I think this is one of the best intros ever. It really is.
Something down there.
This video is getting more stupid as I go on. I think I'm tired. I don't know. Surprised if anyone carries on watching. But yeah, the trapdoor. I have the freaking collection, people. This is awesome. Yeah. So the trapdoor was voiced by Willie Rushton, and it was first aired in 1984 in the UK. Then it got picked up, and they created a second season for it in 1986. They also reran it a few years later, but there was never any more than the 2. Of course, it had, like, you know, a massive cult following. It really did. It gained a total cult following because of Burke, who I thought was called Bert for my entire life, pretty much. Burke and Boney and Druck the Spider. Boney was basically this little skeleton head. There's Druck the Spider, and there's Burke. And he lived in a castle, a monster's castle. It was inhabited by monsters. The whole thing was made out of plasticine, and it looked great, and it must have taken them years to do. But basically, the kind of plot, I mean, the episodes didn't go on very long, but the kind of plot of it was that Burke fed the thing upstairs, who was a massive monster that we never saw. We just heard him, he was in the intro, and you heard his voice, and he would always go, Burke, feed me. what's going on down there, Burke? Now, there was a trapdoor in the little living room, I guess you could call it, and every episode something would come out of it. Some random monster, different shapes, sizes, different sort of violence levels would come out of that thing, and then it would be up to Burke and his friends, Boney and Truck, to get the bloody thing back in there. Now, I do remember one episode very clearly, and it was a little green thing, and I think he called it a splunge or something like that, something silly. And it was a little green thing, and it was fuzzy, kind of like the hair on a troll doll, and it just stuck to everything. And I just remember it was so funny. It was so cool, and I just really wanted to play with it when I was a kid. I don't know why. And that was really good. But then sometimes they had really, really big monsters come out, like really big ones, kind of like Hellboy almost, you know, like great big arms and things and teeth and whatnot. They have currently started rerunning it on Pop. I think that's a channel, POP, as of like 2010. So they are doing reruns at the moment if you'd like to try and watch it on that channel. If not, you can get this awesome collection. I'm still actually proud of myself, so proud that I own this. I should own the rest of them. But yeah, there were only 40 episodes, so it's not many. And I think they only went on for like 10-15 minutes at the most, something like that. So it's not too bad. I think that's pretty much it for Trapdoor, because the plot of it I've pretty much explained, and I gave you the intro, people. I think you got enough out of that. Right, okay. We are on number 4, and oh my god, this is getting so long. Okay, number 4, ready? Round the Twist. I'm going to take that bit. I will talk over this one. Round the Twist was an Australian kids TV show. It ran for 4 series, and it ran from 1989 to 2001. I thought this ended years ago, and obviously it did because it was 2001, but I thought it ended in the 90s. I thought it was strictly a 90s show, and apparently, because obviously the cast grew up a little bit, they recast them like 4 times. But they didn't recast them as in they got new characters in to play the new ones. They literally just recast the actors in the same role. Now, I'm sorry, I don't think they should have bothered doing it like 4 times. If you've got a different... I mean, sometimes it happens. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, hang on a minute, the sister's now someone else. But not 4 fucking times. What's the point of that? Either way, Round the Twist was one of those strange shows where it was you weren't quite sure if they were meant to know about the strange happenings. There was a slight supernatural element to it, like there would be some witches' curses or there'd be ghosts in it, and you weren't quite sure whether or not that was actually supposed to be normal. It centred around Bronson, Pete and Linda and their dad Tony. Bronson was the younger one, Pete was the oldest one, and then Linda was his twin sister. And it was basically their day-to-day lives, and they all lived in a lighthouse, and which was haunted like twice, I think. And yeah, they just kind of they went to school, they went out, they went home, they got into some random things. There would be, I think Pete got cursed by a witch once and had a really tiny mouth. I know Linda found some ghosts in the attic. Bronson did something with his feet once that I don't really want to go into. They of course had their rivalries with the Gribble family, who just hated them. I think there were 3 brothers, if I remember rightly. And yeah, they just hated their guts. And yeah, it was just basically about their kind of everyday life, but there would be slight supernatural elements to it where they would end up kind of going on a journey and uncovering a mystery, usually, that, you know, involved around something supernatural. That's pretty much it. Okay, that was Round the Twist. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. This is the top 3. Well, I say top 3, they're not in any particular order, but still. This is the 3. Now the intro that I've actually got on is some guy's put it up, and he's put this looping for 13 minutes, and he's put a little challenge underneath saying, see how long you guys can last. I'm not going to play this for 13 minutes, I'm going to stop it right now. Clarissa Explains It All. I think a lot of people forgot about this because of the enormity of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I mean, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like I said in my last video, and Fresh Bits of Bel-Air are forces on their own, but I think a lot of people forgot about Clarissa Explains It All, which was a great show. It really was. I mean, I watched it, obviously we all watched that first. Clarissa Explains It All had 65 episodes. It ran from 1991 to 1994. Again, I thought it ran a little bit later than that. But yeah, I mean, it was basically Melissa Joan Hart being Clarissa Darling with her 2 parents in the suburbs and her little brother Ferguson, who was an absolute cock. Now, if any of you like mindless self-indulgence out there, just a little side note, Clarissa is my absolute all-time favourite song of theirs. I just love it. It's brilliant. But yeah, she had her best friend Sam, who through the whole run you all thought they were going to get together, because every time he would climb through her window, literally, he'd get up a ladder. That would be his intro into the episode. He would get a ladder and he would climb through her window. Now, the plot was basically teenage angst. Well, that wasn't really angst. Teenage problems, you know, teenage stuff that she had to deal with. She would also have daydream situations where we'd see a fantasy played out. And it wasn't supernatural, but there was a real surrealism to it. It was kind of like Bailey Cooper's POV. There would be like maybe some sped up running, you know, sort of like people could get electrocuted but not die, you know, silly stuff like that. I do remember one episode where she thinks Ferguson's dead, and then he's like an angel and a devil. And I remember another episode where she likes this boy, but she pretends to be someone called Jade, and she puts a wig on and makeup and basically ends up looking like a goth. And then in the end she has to kind of come clean. Just silly little angsty things like that, but with an entertaining surrealism special effects twist. That was pretty much Clarissa Explains It All. And she, of course, constantly broke the fourth wall, which is when they talk to the camera, which I think made it a lot more entertaining, because it was like she was talking to you and she was explaining it to you, hence probably why it was called it Clarissa Explains It All. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of Clarissa Explains It All. You should have given it a watch. Okay, number 2. Now, the number 1 and 2 on this list, I'm not sure if any Americans are going to know what these are, but still, they're on my list, because, like I said, I think you've forgotten about them. Right, number 2. Queen's Nose. I think a lot of people have forgotten about this, I really do. And we're going to stop it there. The Queen's Nose was a BBC... Oh, was it BBC? I think it was BBC. It was a BBC show. Yeah, BBC show. It was based on a book by Dick King-Smith. And the TV show ran for 7 seasons, which I didn't know, because I stopped watching it when I got a little bit too old for it. It ran from 1995 to 2003. That's a hell of a long time. I do vaguely remember seeing a later episode just because I had BBC on. Yeah, so Victoria Chalet, or Chalet, however you want to say it, played Melody Parker. And she was the one people will remember from this. She had red hair, you know who I mean, you're talking about. And her Uncle Ginger comes to her and visit her family, her sister Harmony and her parents, and he gives her a 50p coin, and it grants her 10 wishes. The point of it is that she has to rub the side that has the Queen's nose on it. And the first series is closest to the books. Obviously they had to start making up the later ones because the books obviously didn't exist for them to adapt them from. And she ends up turning her family into loads of animals. She then has to use wishes to turn her family back. She gets into all kinds of scrapes because she's a kid and she's got wishes, and that's what happens when you're a kid and you've got wishes. It's pretty much like, you know, a morality tale. You know, don't do this. Like, don't turn your sister into a cat because you'll miss your sister. Just silly stuff like that. Now, unfortunately, I was quite gullible when I was young, and I didn't know this for a long time, but something they pointed out in the show with the 50p that he gave her is that if you get these, obviously I don't think these are around anymore because it's an old circulation coin, but there used to be the hands that went round on the opposite sides of the Queen's face, and one of them was supposedly a female's hand, and he pointed this out in the show, and obviously that meant it was a special 50p. So if you rubbed the Queen's nose, you got a wish. Now, me being a bit of a dickhead, actually did this because I didn't realise that there was millions of 50p coins that had that particular design on them. So when I found one for once in my life, saw a female hand and thought, fucking hell, I've got a wishing 50p. I made a wish and it didn't come true and I was quite pissed off. But never mind. So stupid. Yeah, that's pretty much the entire plot of the Queen's Nose. It's the fact that she's a kid, she gets some wishes, and everything goes wrong. Never mind. I'm sure she's over it now. She's definitely old enough to be. Right, we are at the number 1 spot, and I'm sorry this has gone for 35 minutes already. Okay. The Demon Headmaster. Holy shit, guys. I bet some of you have just kicked yourselves going, oh my god, the Demon Headmaster. I was quite lucky because when I was in school they made us watch this, and I think they made a bunch of other classes watch it as well, just for like educational purposes. And my teacher, I was very sick one week, and my teacher actually allowed me to take the videos home with me, and I sat there watching them all the time. So happy about it. So yeah, that was a Demon Headmaster intro. Some of you might remember. Demon Headmaster ran from 1996 to 1998. I know another short run. It ran for 3 seasons. It was based on a bunch of books by Gillian Cross. I didn't read the books. I don't know anyone that read the books, but we all saw the TV show. It basically centred around a headmaster who was he played by? He was played by Terence Hardiman. Really good at it. He had hypnotic powers, and the series opens with Dinah Glass, who's a foster child. She's being fostered by the Hunter family. Lloyd and Harvey are her 2 new foster brothers. And they go to a school with the Demon Headmaster as their headmaster. Now, they belong to a club, and there's only 3 other friends of theirs that have this special immunity. They cannot be hypnotised, so they've created this gang called Splat. Now, I can't remember what Splat stands for, sorry, but it does stand for something. They've created Splat, which is basically their own kind of club against the hypnotising headmaster and all of his minions. Dinah Glass ends up having to go to this school, so we basically follow her from episode 1, enrolling, asking them about all the strange occurrences, because all the kids are very well mannered, you know, and they're all like very intelligent. There's a bunch of prefects. Now this scared me a lot actually, because the girl that plays Rose was really good at this, and the prefects are like little mindless drones, and they enforce the rules, and there's no escape. And we basically follow throughout the first series Dinah and her new brothers and their friends and Splat trying to figure out what the Demon Headmaster's doing, because it turns out the Demon Headmaster's got an evil plan. They have to figure out what it is, and then they have to stop it. Season 2, actually not Season 2, Part 2 of the first series, they split it into 2 parts. Part 2 is the same thing, but it follows the Demon Headmaster's new agenda, and Dinah's high intelligence gets in the way of it, and they have to stop him again. The second and third season does the same thing in a way, but every time there's a new season, it's a new location, it's a new agenda, it's a new evil plan, so at least that's interesting. So the whole seasons are about following Dinah and her brothers and their friends, exposing the Demon Headmaster, because they keep thinking that they've killed him or I guess vanquished him in a way, that they've defeated him each season, and each season he just comes back again. But yeah, it did win an award though. It got Best Drama, got a BAFTA for Best Drama in 1997, which is something considering that I've watched it recently and the acting is shocking. Jesus, it's really bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, the story's great and stuff, but the acting, wow. I'm going to leave it there for Demon Headmaster, because if you've seen it, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go look it up. But yeah, Demon Headmaster was freaking awesome at the time, and it's still good now, apart from the acting. But yeah, this is now a 40-minute review, so I'm going to cut it off here. That was 10 kids TV shows that you've probably forgotten existed, and I hope you enjoyed, or at least got through it. See you later, guys.